Hi there, and welcome to another episode of Women with Good Chat. I'm here with my good buddy Pam.
Good morning, Amanda.
How are you, gorgeous?
I'm good. Freezing still.
Yes.
The polar vortex is real.
It is real.
We're in the middle of
It's
it.
vortexing like crazy.
Hey.
So in continuing with our series on health and beauty and fitness and well-being into this new year, we want to touch on mental health, which is our approach to mental health is really kind of mental fitness and checking in. And we want to divvy it up into two sections. And that would be just, monitoring and checking in on your general mental well-being. And then again, with our theme on transitioning, as we always like to touch back on as we're transitioning into this next phase, how that again affects your mental fitness. So Pam, why don't you start us off?
Well, I think again, Amanda, really important that when we started talking about doing a short series on health, we really want to make sure that we thought about our mental health in the same way we think about our nutrition, we think about our exercise, and mental health has to be right up there as important. And I think one of the problems is that we're often fighting our mental health from when we're in not a crisis, but when we're lagging, right? So instead of thinking about keeping on top of it, right, keeping things scheduled conscientiously that are protecting our mental health, that are furthering our good mental health, we kind of wait until we're suffering in some way to try to figure out what's going wrong.
Yes, exactly. And when it comes to mental fitness, there are many different approaches, I guess. And this is really just something that we've been thinking about. We're not experts or anything.
Right.
I have been to therapy, but I don't have a ton of experience with therapy. Mm-hmm. But I think one of the natural fallbacks is that you have an issue, you go to therapy.
Right.
And as you were saying, it's not something that we're monitoring on. It's not an ongoing thing often.
Right.
We'll deal with problems and I've got to get help. Like
right,
I have
exactly.
a boo-boo, I've got to go to the doctor.
Right.
Same sort of thing.
Right, absolutely. And I think what I would like to advocate it would be that we conscientiously check in with our mental health on a regular basis, right? And to me, I kind of divide up how I'm feeling from a mental health point of view in my mood and then my functioning. Right? So I try to keep an eye on what my mood is, right? And really checking in, what is my mood today? Like, have I had a week where really I'm having trouble with motivation? I'm not looking forward to the things I usually am. And then from a functioning point of view, for me, what happens when I'm not feeling as well in a mental health sort of way is that I get quite disorganized, okay? So I start not being more disorganized, not getting done when I'm hoping to get done. So by monitoring those two things for me, I feel like I can catch it early if I'm starting not to be doing as well and then start into some strategies before I get to the point where I'm really feeling low and missing things or not, taking care of myself, or on the other hand, not accomplishing anything. So I can try to keep it steady before things get really problematic.
Right, and that's a very good point. And I think that there's various ways that you could approach it, but it's not always so evident to everybody. And I think one of the things people might think of is things like meditation, which I've tried. I'm not excellent at it. Mm-hmm. Something I do have to work a little harder on. And obviously physical fitness is something that I use as a fallback. Yep. But when you talk, Pam, about I notice I'm feeling a little low. Mm-hmm. So what are some of the things that you'll think about doing when you start feeling the blues maybe a little bit?
So I think for me, because I have the brain that I do, I will try to look at what is going on in my life that may be causing that. And indeed, and this is another, I think, thing that I try to think of, and there may be nothing, right? There may be nothing. And if that's the case, then you don't have to attach to it, right? So I think part of mental health is a combination between monitoring how you're feeling, but also not necessarily, if you are feeling a bit down, stewing on that too much, right? Worrying too much about it. I think you note it, you try to figure out, okay, is there something specific that might be causing this? And then if there's a course of action from that, fine. But if there's not a course of action from that, then maybe bring in a bit of forgiveness, right? I mean, it's the middle of winter here. We're all struggling to get outside, right? We're feeling very cramped. We're not getting natural light. So if our moods are a bit lower now, it's a good thing to note, but it's not something we necessarily have to panic about. So I don't know if that sounds contradictory, but it's kind of just a balanced approach to noting how we're feeling, thinking about what might be causing it, but not going down this huge rabbit hole about, oh my God, everything's wrong, I'm not doing this. Right?
Right. I totally get it. I think sometimes that's easier said than done because
Yes.
obviously people do. I know for me that if I'm feeling a little low, and coincidentally I am today.
Okay,
Feeling
there
a
you
little
go.
low.
Good day for the topic. Good day for the topic.
Which is very unusual for me. Not that I'm always like super pumped, but it's just not my nature to, I guess, feel down, I guess. But again, with kind of the stage that we're at,
Yes.
I kind of, if I am feeling it, I'm going to kind of feel it, like you were just
Yes.
saying.
Yep.
And sometimes that's okay.
Yep.
Again, I feel that I am still recovering from the loss of my dogs last year.
Absolutely. Yep.
And I sometimes just kind of dismiss that again, but it still kind of lingers.
Yes.
So what I try and do in that instance is I try and focus on the positive things and not the negative things.
Right.
And then believe it or not, that makes me feel a little bit better.
Absolutely. No, I think, gratitude is certainly something that many people find as a really good way to help us when we're starting to feel like that,
Yeah.
right? Try to balance what we're thinking with, what our problems are with what we're grateful for. For me, I have to say that I'm going to say most of the time when I am starting to feel like, I see these signs, my mood is lower, my organization and things are slipping. Most of the time for me, I just need sleep or I just need tune-out time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's, I guess, the wisdom, which we'll get into next time. But for me, that's what it is, right? I am simply most of the time just feeling depleted. And for me, I recharge. It's surprising given what my personality is, but generally I recharge by just shutting down.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes, if I look back on it, I think, okay, what's happened is that the last 3 weeks have simply been way too busy for me. And that is a problem for me. So let's just adjust that, right? Let's make sure this week there's not all the appointments, there's not all the planning about what I'm doing.
Right.
Let's just slow it down, rest, and most of the time that really helps me bounce back.
And I think that's very important. Now, everybody has different schedules and different, not everybody has the luxury of giving
Yes.
themselves a lot of time.
Absolutely.
We definitely understand that.
Absolutely.
I do find that when I'm working a lot, and certainly December is a very busy month for me with catering and parties and everything, that I tend to work, and then at the end of the day, I need to go and lie down for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
I find is that I was starting to do that at the end of the day, even when I wasn't as busy.
Okay.
And for me, and I know myself, this is from my personality and the way I operate, that I had to change that up.
Okay.
So I could take a little rest,
Yeah.
but I then, need to get back to doing something or planning something or doing whatever. Again, we talk about how our brains work. That's
Yeah.
kind of how my brain
Right.
works. So again, when you were mentioning about finding out what works for you, because we're all so different,
Yeah.
over time you might find that you figure out those little things for yourself.
Exactly. And that's, and what leads to that is by taking the notice, thinking about what's going on in your life. And it takes a long time to figure that out, right? Like
Yeah.
that's not something you're going to connect right away. That's over the years, I think, of really conscientiously noticing these things,
Yes.
right? Noticing what's helping, noticing what's bringing you down,
Yeah.
right? Etc. So, that's, I think, the first step of what we're talking about. In the same way that people who are, want to keep their weight in control aren't going to go 9 months without stepping on a scale, right? Generally. Same thing with your mental health, right? You're checking in with yourself, maybe with other people if they're noticing differences, but that check in, thinking about it before you're in that mode where you automatically jump to a crisis kind of situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And just before we go, one handy, helpful hint that I use for myself as well is the old pros and cons sheet.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
Because I love to problem solve at nighttime when I'm supposed to be sleeping. And so when I wake up in the morning, I find a lot of stuff I've alleviated because I've been worrying about it all night long.
There you go.
But I do the pros and the cons, and I find that does really help. So whether it's financial, or you're worrying about a family issue, or what am I going to make for dinner next week?
Yeah.
Like all these little things, if you can make lists and put it down somewhere, or type it onto your laptop or your phone, I think it helps relieve a little bit of the stress.
Absolutely.
Just a handy tip.
Yeah.
Anyway, listen, we love that you joined us today, and we really look forward to touching base on this again next week.
Absolutely.
When we look at how we're dealing with this as we move into the transitional phase of our life. And as always, please drop your comments below. We love to hear from you, and we will get back to you. And we look forward to seeing you next time on
Women with Good Chat.
We'll see you later.
Chat soon.